How you doing, man?
Hey, how's everyone?
Fine, and you?
Good, good. Are you in your new place?
Yep, in
That's
my new
it?
place. Well,
Nice.
I'm in the room that I'm going to be in now. My little office space or spare
Nice.
bedroom.
No TV
Still
on the background. That's a
No
game changer.
TV, no TV, no one else, just me, so I don't have to disturb anyone else. Doors
Awesome.
closed and everything.
Congrats, man. All right, we got 18.
I've just been watching the call from the last time you spoke to these researchers. I've not finished watching it, but I wanted to get a bit of a better idea of what's been going on. I've missed so much. Like, just 'cause everything moves at warp speed. You
Yeah,
just, if you're not paying attention to every minute, you just lose so much.
there's so many
Nice to see.
videos with
It's
stuff.
nice to see people around again.
Yeah, we have 18 people here. That's awesome. And let me quickly double check if we have everyone from the University of Edinburgh. I think we have Emma. Do we have Emily? Yeah, we have Emily. We have Jing. And I'm not sure if Dr. Tayab is joining. Um, Bahor, I don't think she's here, but I think we can start. Um, Emily?
Hi.
Hey. I just wanted to quickly introduce you as the, let's say, the originator of this conversation on the other side. And I wanted to quickly kick off this call with one single purpose of simplifying your life from the purpose of CAMARADES as a group, of bringing more awareness and kind of like a system to the overall knowledge assembly and knowledge organization. So I prompted this call for community to join in and kind of have a better understanding of the challenge from firsthand people who are experiencing it. And I think it would be helpful if you could give kind of the overall introduction of what you're trying to achieve as of right now, and kind of the, let's say, insane workload from the manual standpoint that you're experiencing.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So I'm just going to get, so I've got the numbers. So yes, so we're a research group based at the University of Edinburgh, and our background is in meta research. So we essentially study how research is done, research and research. And the kind of key methodology supporting that work is around systematic reviews. So we normally focus on a specific research question, try to identify all the relevant evidence in terms of primary research studies that have been published on that question, collate that evidence and then extract information from it to answer the question that we are interested in. Most of the work we do is it's not really focused on COVID type research. It's more neurological disorders. But we saw the COVID problem, I guess that's the way of describing it, as an opportunity to take what we do to another level. So normally we would have a specific question and we look for papers to answer that question. Whereas our approach with COVID is to try and do what we call a systematic online living evidence summary, which essentially identify all the relevant studies that are related to COVID, primary research studies, and then people who want to do systematic reviews to answer specific questions can use that resource to identify the relevant studies without having to trawl through all the noise of just the crap that's also published. So in the COVID SOLS project, and SOLS is an acronym for Systematic Online Living Evidence Summary. So in the COVID SOLS project, what we've done is we search across different databases, PubMed, Embase, the WHO site, using search terms, systematic search strategies. We've got the specific search terms, And every week we run a search on all these different sources, pull them together. We have developed some deduplication code because obviously the same articles are going to be indexed in lots of different places. So we deduplicate. We then go through this painful process of finding the actual PDFs of what we've found. And to date, we've found 72,000 possibly relevant hits. So these are just, publications that either mention COVID somewhere in them. So yeah, a lot of noise. And then we have a crowd who annotate the papers for us. So the first question we're interested in is it primary research rather than people's opinions?
Somebody else's opinion, yeah.
Yeah. I think basically you could publish your shopping list if you just put COVID-19 in the title and it would just get published.
Probably.
Yeah, there's a huge amount.
There's a lot of noise.
Yeah. So far we have, with our crowd, have categorized just under 5,000 papers. And I'm trying to work out research overview. I think about 10% of those are COVID research, primary research even, if that's right. Oh no, 20%. So far 20% is primary research. And then the rest is either opinion pieces or things that are just not relevant to COVID. And for the studies that are primary research, we then do another layer of annotation where we describe, is it a systematic review or is it a randomized controlled trial or a case report or diagnostic study? We annotate it for the type of research it is, the type of participants or subjects that have been included. So have they done an animal study, or is it an in silico study, or is it actual patients with COVID or healthy volunteers, or so we categorize it for all these different things. And then I guess the end goal is that with these categorized studies that are only of primary research, people who need answers can then go and find the relevant research without having to wade.
To dredge through it all to work it out themselves. Exactly. That's a really valuable resource you're building there, and it sounds like it's something that sounds like it'd work quite synergistic. Concepts we're trying to build on, isn't it, right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So not to interject, but just a quick question on the workflow document that Tayyab shared with me. Are you okay with me screen sharing that one?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I should also say that we're very open. One of our main philosophies is around open science, and so we're not protective or we don't hide things, and we believe that
it's important to ask these things. I learned my lesson in the past.
But yeah, just so you know, we would not have a problem with you sharing.
Awesome. So this is the document. Not sure if you have an updated version of this, but this is the one that I've seen a couple of weeks ago. And it makes sense in terms of the workflow steps, like the collate publications, remove duplicates, PDF retrieval. But the interesting part is the actual annotations, because I believe Jing or someone else shared the data set, which is a list of publications, but I don't think it has the actual annotations. So I was wondering, which tools do you actually use for annotations? Is that like still spreadsheets, or is there some web interface?
Yeah, so we have a tool, an application that we've developed in-house called Syrf, which is a systematic review facility. We like an acronym in our group, as you can tell. And yeah, Syrf was developed to facilitate distributed work around systematic reviews. So the records from
you be able to share?
Yeah, I can share my screen, and then well, you've disabled sharing apparently.
Oh, one sec.
Slava's got a quick question.
Right now?
Is that standardized? Yeah. And do you use specific control vocabularies like generic ones like mesh?
No, no, we don't. So keywords we bring in from the databases that we collect the records from, but no, we don't use standard vocabulary. Okay,
and do you have some plans to use control vocabularies?
So we've been involved with some conversations around different ontologies with other groups who are working in this space. But we haven't really made huge amounts of progress in terms of a standardized language as yet.
Okay.
So this seems to have...
And for now it's only English, if I understand correctly.
It's only English in terms of the primary studies that we get. No, because the WHO indexes non-English manuscripts as well. So we do have a workflow and we actually, when we were trying to get the crowd together, we specifically asked people, non-English speakers, to be able to annotate non-English studies, but with English annotations. But today, I mean, there's been a few Chinese ones, but for the annotations we're doing, I think from the abstract, you can annotate those. We've not had to send them out to specific people as yet. But yes, we have that capacity.
Okay.
This is, sorry, do you have another question?
But you know, there is really huge potential even if you'll manage to link those annotations and all entities to some control vocabularies. So there is potential to create a knowledge graph, and this information can be findable by people, by medical experts that can use those annotations in their work. So it can be kind of like first step just to use control vocabularies.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, we don't have a huge amount of experience in the controlled vocabulary space. And I don't know if Jeanette's on the call, because we attended a meeting, because it was on our radar that this could be something potentially very useful to do. But actually identifying the individuals who can make that happen is what we found difficult.
Hopefully we can help you with that, because
I think you might have identified some.
Okay, super.
Some crazy people willing to spend time on this, because we've been working with Slava primarily on how to unify all of these medical ontologies, how to link them into one central place. And obviously that's a humongous task, but I feel that we have some good direction.
And just another question, are you involved in some European open science projects or Horizon 2020?
Are we involved in Horizon 2020 projects? Yes, one of our current projects is a H2 2020. Yeah, we are.
And which one?
It's called Equipped.
Okay.
So it's the European Quality in Preclinical Data.
Okay, so yeah, please share a link. It's also interesting to see what people do.
Sure.
Because I basically I work for Dutch Royal Academy of Arts and Sciences, and we're involved in most of European projects, doing something with standardization and knowledge graphs and this kind of stuff. So probably there is potential also if you can join somewhere, and we can do things together.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I'll quickly show you Syrf. So records get uploaded into this platform. I'll go to one that actually has most of them. Yeah. So we've got the inclusion exclusion criteria here, the title, author, year, the abstract. We have a link here where you can get the PDF. So that just opens the PDF in another window. And then these are the questions. So of the 8,377 that have been uploaded, these ones have already been annotated. These are the ones that are available to me to annotate. And then you just have a series of questions. So is it in English? Is it a correction or erratum? If I say no, does the study include primary research? If I say yes, Is the full text available? Yes, no, yes in the language I don't understand. We say yes. Has it been peer reviewed? What are the objectives? Say therapeutic intervention testing. What are the research methods used? Experimental research in human subjects. I'm just kind of making this up. What is the purpose? Say it's a vaccine study. You need to put in the name of the vaccine. Method, it's a clinical trial, and these are dependent questions on what you've asked before. It's a
So it's got a question logic that builds the questions as you answer them, dependent, and it gives context to the questions that develops it.
Yeah.
Clever.
And yeah, and then if I say it's a registered study, so it's registered here, and then you can tick these and it will ask you to put in the numbers if they're there or not. And I mean, that's quite a long, the way I've answered those questions, it's to show you most of the questions that come up.
Full depth of where they go, yeah. I understand.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
It also expands on some of the things that we need to learn how.
Oh, your sound has gone.
Sorry, yeah, my mic does it sometimes. I just talk too quietly.
So what did you say then?
I understand why it's done, but it's also a good way of letting us see the sort of questions we need to be learning how to extract out of them with AI tools. Because that's the sort of things we need to work out how to answer. Yeah. And there's so much variations with it. As you can see with you expanding, every time you expanded on something, there's more details, and it's that refined understanding we need to have more of.
And we did develop a guide, an annotation guide, that let me just discard these answers. I don't know if it's available through here.
And, do you know something about DDI?
About what? Sorry?
DDI.
DDI.
Yes, so I just shared link. Data Documentation Initiative.
Oh, okay. No, okay, we'll have a look at that.
So basically, what you are describing here, it's already, so this is something we already do. We're trying to link research questions to studies. And there is European project doing that. So there is also technical infrastructure developed in Germany that can help to do that.
Okay, we'll have a look. So in this annotation guide, it's a bit about how to use Syrf. And then we basically go into detail of all the different questions. And that has explanations of the question and the options for each one.
What the options actually mean if somebody doesn't.
Yes, exactly.
Well, ideally, they should know it, right?
Ideally, but at the same time, you can't crowdsource experts and have them and there's very few people who are experts in all of it. It's just not a big enough population to work from. They're already all busy.
And also, experts don't agree. So one of the reasons of developing this document was to get clear working definitions of what things meant. Because
and the knowledge of the crowd could collectively come up with answers. If 10 people think one and 4 people think another, the 10 are more likely to be right than wrong.
Do you actually present the same study to multiple people?
Yeah, so each study is presented to 2 people. And then we've got experts in-house who reconcile any discrepancies that come up.
Got it. And in terms of
the ones, go on, Arthur.
In terms of the process, basically you upload, I don't know, like 1,000 papers to Syrf. Then you have 2,000 people go through that 1,000 papers. And then you have a limited amount of in-house people, like couple that go through the actual conflicts and resolve these.
I mean, it's not quite 2,000 people. It's I think we've got maybe 60 odd volunteers, but they've done quite a lot of work.
Got it. Yeah, I was just like thinking in terms of the process.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And in terms of the model that you've developed or played around with, the one that Jing was talking about, how do you currently integrate that into this process?
So I should probably defer to Jing or Emma because they're the ones who run this.
Well, at this moment, so hi, I'm Jing. So at this moment, so the aim, we have an API, so the model is building up on the back end as an API. It will get it runs on any, it works on a way that you can send documents there, training your own model, and work on the rest of your project. So it's designed not only for the COVID, but also for any systematic review we have. So and without human interventions. So the performance is not optimized for your project, but it's more have general abilities to dealing with all the systematic review project. And we worked with IOE, Institution of Education in London. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the PI's name is James Thomas. I don't know why you heard of him, and he had create API review, and his and so we work with them. So that's API we provide, and then on the back end we use R to pipe everything together, including the searching, PDF retrieval, and all the deduplications and things. Everything's run back in R. Is that the answer?
So in terms of like the result of the classification model, do you showcase that for annotators in some way on this current Syrf web interface?
Yes, we kept some data for them to give the performance. So we basically, the review coming side will do some screening or annotation, and we send a part of the data for training and keep some, reserve some for the training, for the validating and testing. And we show the number to the front end and say, here's the performance. Do you like to review more, or you would like to stop and just use the machine?
Okay, so if we get back to that Syrf model, on that interface, there is some section that says this is like most likely, you know, this type of paper or something that guides your annotators, or I'm just trying to understand how it currently looks to annotators. Maybe Emily, you
Sorry,
could,
I missed that. So say that again. So you're trying to understand what we show to the actual annotators.
So the idea here is, one of the first problems is classification of types of papers, right? And the idea is to simplify that for annotators so they don't have to spend more time, you know, kind of dedicating on figuring out which type of paper that is, if machine can do that more efficiently. So I would assume that once they open a new paper, when it's presented to them on Syrf, something that says, hey, with 80% confidence, it's a clinical trial or a systematic review or meta-analysis paper, something like that.
So we don't have that functionality built into the Syrf.
But the idea is to have something like that?
So I guess it depends on the performance of these models. So the code, you know, what Jing was talking about before, when we ran it for, is it a primary research in COVID or not? I can't remember what the numbers were now, but we basically have decided to just say, not change the information that goes to the annotators, but run that. And if the machine says it's excluded, we're just going to exclude it. Because I think our sensitivity is 95% with that model. So we're just going to exclude it and then just present. So the ones that the reviewer sees are more likely to be included because we've already run the machine in the back end before the records that we upload to Syrf.
Got it. Pretty much you're confident that your classifier on the distinction between primary and non-primary is good enough. So you're just filtering that out before you even present it.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
And then because they have to do additional annotations, you know, if it's
I'll confirm it if it's not. If it is one of the false positives, they'll work that out quickly in the first question. Is it what we think it is? Yes, it is. Okay. Now let's look at details.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And
That's like a secondary confirmation. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess in an ideal world, it would be good to be able to have as little human input as possible, because obviously, you know, the last 6 months, people had more time. They were at home because of things like lockdown and quarantines, and everyone, you know, COVID was on the top of everyone's mind. But as things shift and people start going back to their normal jobs and get, I guess, COVID fatigue and are tired of being worried about it and tired of talking about it and reading about it.
Tired of thinking about it and reading about it, yeah.
Our input from our crowd is going to go down. And I mean, I think I'm very pragmatic. I've got a very pragmatic approach to these kind of things. And if it turns out that we end up with a tool that isn't able to really drill down to the detailed annotation, but still can tell us top level annotations, that's still going to be useful to the community. I think what we're doing manually right now is kind of gold standard in what you would want as a systematic reviewer.
Yeah.
And I think we need to take a pragmatic approach in terms of once we have fewer people manually doing
reducing your expectations. It's nice to have a really good thing, but if I can get 60% of that, that would also be great, because it's still 60%.
Yeah.
You're appreciating that any of it is an improvement over none of it.
And as somebody who does lots of systematic reviews, the time it takes to just screen for inclusion is long and painful.
Yeah, and that's a big chunk of time, isn't it? That's a lot of time if you're spending all that extra time going, oh yeah, I've had to read this paper to understand that I don't need this paper, and I've had to read this next paper to realize I don't need this paper. You want to spend the majority of your time concentrating on details of what you need rather than working out even if you need it at all.
Exactly.
So my next question, how much, go ahead.
Sorry, after one, then I have a question I'll ask after yours.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll ask after you are finished, then I'll ask.
Okay, so quick question. How much time does it take for, you know, on average for annotator to annotate one paper?
That's a how long's a piece of string kind of question. It, it really depends on the study. You know, some studies, I mean, one of the benefits of this infodemic around COVID is that people were just quickly doing stuff and getting them out. So papers aren't generally that long. And they generally were focused on a primary objective. You know, it's not like the traditional Nature paper that's got 50 questions in it and 500 graphs. So they're generally simpler, I think, in terms of the number of objectives addressed. But yeah, it depends on someone's expertise. If I have
skill set, time to do it, concentration level, there's 1,000 variables.
There's so many variables. It could take, it can take 30 seconds to know something's excluded, but it can also take 20 minutes to read them.
It could take 20 minutes to work out the questions if all the questions need answers. Yeah.
So in terms of the quantitative extraction, because that's where you get into kind of the details, what was the sample size, what was the age group, what was the where the specimen was obtained, and all of these specific things. I mean, I would assume that person like at least skims the paper sections and tries to identify all of these variables. And to me, that sounds, you know, at least like 5-10 minutes, right?
Yeah, at least.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right, Sid?
Yeah, hi, I'm Siddhartha. I have a question. So I was wondering, is there any attempt to like build kind of a knowledge graph, you know, from like the annotations or the publications, like, you know, extract the entities and the relationships between them? It's not just annotations, but, you know, what sort of knowledge graph, which could be used to say answer questions. I know like this is extra work, and And there are some initiatives in our group also, I think, to create such knowledge graphs. So that's my question.
So it's not our plan, and it wasn't our primary purpose when we were developing this, but I can see clearly that there is opportunity for these data to be used for that kind of thing. And I think that's, like I said, we're very open. And if it's something that, because it's not really our expertise, and obviously resources limited. So I'm happy for, if people want to have a play with what we've come up with to create something like that, then that works for me.
So the annotations that you have, they're public and available for download?
Yeah. You just have to, it's got a CC BY license on it, I think, the data.
And in terms of the access to the Syrf tool, I would assume you give out logins or something?
Yeah, people can just register themselves. We don't give out the link to the COVID Solves project until someone's completed the training, just because we want to try and obviously
maintain quality.
Yeah.
You want to maintain an equality of delivery rather than just letting anybody who feels like going to click through it for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be a very strange way to spend your time, but some people are strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Tina was asking, is there a prioritization method for review?
I'm not sure what you mean by prioritization method.
As in prioritizing different types of papers, or papers with more valuable data versus less valuable data, or a filtration of any kind, or is it just first come, first served?
Yeah.
Just as far as you had mentioned, maybe a decreased input from the group and just scarce resourcing for this type of work. So just wondering about prioritization.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. But the way, the Syrf setup is set up to present reviewers with studies at random. I guess the only thing is that obviously we search weekly, and we've been uploading records to Syrf in that kind of weekly batches. So I guess that's the only kind of order that's in there.
Yeah, the ones that have been in there longer have been more likely to be seen, and that's really the only thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think there is a potential way to treat kind of like machine learning models as additional contributors to this process, so that let's imagine that we give 1,000 papers to a machine learning model that extracts these parameters, and then you kind of like resolve the conflicts between those and human inputs? Yeah,
that makes sense, and I guess that's a good way to validate.
To test the quality of the modeling, yeah.
Quality of the model, yeah. So yeah, that. I guess to me, it's part of the process of working out how good the model is and how effective it is at classifying.
Yeah, it needs to be measured against humans who are doing it well.
Yeah, exactly.
Or assuming doing it well. Yeah, the only way you can test an intelligence model is test it against the only other intelligence model we have, as in human intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious.
Sorry, go on.
I was curious on that note, when you have discrepancies and you have the experts resolve them, does that give you a reliability score to your contributors? Because then that could be applied also to the model, and it makes, like, these things can scale better. Like, I agree that it's important to have the experts, but also if you do statistical analysis, well, 3 out of 4, like 2 reviewers have a discrepancy, add a third, now we can have a majority vote or look at a number and identify less reliable reviewers.
Yeah, so this is something that Emma's working on. Is we don't call them less reliable, because obviously we want to keep people on board, but just common misunderstandings, I guess, so that we can say, this is coming up lots that you seem to think this type of study is like this. And so that's something that Emma's working on, is creating an interface where we look at our reconciled answers with review answers to try and improve, because obviously reconciling takes a huge amount of time as well. And then actually one of the things so when we first ran the algorithm that Jing was talking about, the classifier that Jing was talking about before, what we did is we went through a process of error correction where there was the largest discrepancy between the algorithm and our decisions. And we went back and we did this correction. And that had a huge improvement in performance. And, you know, and it goes both ways. Sometimes humans have made mistakes where the machine has got it right. So our gold standard isn't necessarily perfect.
Yeah, well, human error is a term that's widely used because it exists.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just
exactly.
And it's one of them things. If we could make a machine model, even a machine model, no machine model is perfect to my understanding. It's only ever improving, and the idea is if you can make it, you want to have a certain amount of errors to make sure that it actually is how accurate it is. Because if a machine model was like described as it got 100% of the cases, well, how many things did it get that wasn't? You know, how many false positives exist? It's that balance between false positives, false negatives, and like the opposites of them. That's my understanding, but I'm not an AI expert either. So.
Yeah, so actually I was wondering, so when you talk about Emma working on that interface, how do you currently do this conflict resolution?
So it's a lot. And Emma can probably describe it better than I can. But essentially we've got this database, this kind of SQL database that feeds between Syrf and where the source data are. And where there's discrepancies, we produce this query of the record, so the Syrf record and the question, the two answers between each reviewer, and where there's a discrepancy between these reviewers, and obviously there's a link to the record. So then the third person takes a new like a third record, a reconciled record, into Syrf. So it's a kind of back and forth, but it's not ideal because Syrf is still under development. You know, this is an ongoing project within our team as well. And the reconciliation phase of Syrf is not 100% there yet. Mainly because, I mean, for this kind of thing, it's not too difficult. But when you start to think about when you're actually doing a complete systematic review in Syrf and you've got discrepancies, not just in the annotations, but also your data extraction. And when you've got multiple experiments that you're extracting from a paper, and then you've got the data from those paper, trying to match all of that up,
the more complicated like you said, a lot of the things right now have been very simple studies. Later on, when more and more in-depth, more complex, bigger sample sets and bigger questions start to get tested, you definitely want to be able to plan for that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
In the design principles of it, you want to be able to make it sure it scales. Otherwise, it'll work right now and then it won't work in the future.
I don't know, Jeanette, I don't know where we are with reconciliation. Is that something that we're going to be able to take all into Syrf soon, or?
Hi, so I'm Jeanette. I work on Syrf, part of the team that works on that. So basically reconciliation is on our list of things and our lead developer is working on it, but I don't see it being part of the actual site for a couple of months at least, I think. So it's in the process, but it's not, like Emily says, it's not as smooth as it sounds. So
very few things are.
It's
like
true.
the more complicated a thing, the more complicated it increases. The more you know about it, the more you don't know. The more you realize you don't know, and the more you realize you've got to fix. Such is life.
Absolutely.
All the fun of complexity.
So another quick question that I had. So in terms of these specific sub-answers and to the questions, like what is the sample size, what is the animal model, and all of these, where specifically can we see the list of all of these like produced values, the actual reference to the paper and the resulting annotation?
Hi, Emma here. I just posted a CSV file with that information on the Slack channel. I think it's in one of the threads.
Oh, just now?
Yeah, just 10 minutes ago. It's called filtered dataset, and then 2 days ago.
Awesome. Oh, well, the one that you posted 2 days ago, I actually don't see the answers in that one. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm looking.
the first one's all of our unique data. We don't have annotations for all of the unique data, and then the one that I've posted just now, that is the subset that we do have annotation for.
Yeah, because if you imagine it, Arthur, we've got the searches that we do, and there's, like I said, over 70,000 hits. So that data set is literally just citation information for the method. Yeah,
Got it.
and then the next level is the ones that we have dual annotated and reconciled. And those ones have, you know, and it's only the reconciled annotations that we share because we think those are more likely to be correct. And for those, we have 5,000.
Got it. So this filtered dataset CSV will contain the actual answers to what annotators.
5,000 that have been reconciled.
Awesome. And Slava was wondering if there is a documentation on the fields.
If there's a what,
for
sorry?
the columns.
On the fields, as in like the different data fields that exist once the data has been created.
Yes.
So I guess our annotation guide describes what the different fields mean, because these are just mapped directly from the Syrf database.
But my question is more like, so I understand there is DOI and also there is some technical information and ISBN and this kind of stuff. But how about, for example, objective and method?
Yeah, so those are all from the annotation document.
So this is something that annotators basically put in this data set, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so can I read somewhere what kind of fields actually coming from data set itself and something they contributed?
Yeah, I've posted the annotation guide, which is hosted on the Open Science Framework. But I've posted a link to that. But it's a good point actually that on the Shiny app for all the data, we describe what each field means. And it's on the Shiny app, but I guess there's not because you're talking like a README type file, aren't you? To say, okay, this is what each.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like the technical documentation rather than the user-friendly side of it.
Makes sense. No, that doesn't.
Yeah. So I just need to understand what kind of fields actually contributed by people, by experts, and what we can get from like papers. Because what I see, so we have a Core19 pipeline, so we can extract entities automatically and do some linkage. And we basically can reuse the same pipeline for your data right now.
Okay.
So we can actually enrich your data set with new information.
Which would be useful, yeah.
You should see when it's been done. It's crazy. it increases so much information into it.
So maybe Emma, I don't know if that's something we can add to your to-do list to describe the fields in the CSV, because I think that is a useful thing to be done.
Yeah, that would be great. I think we kind of got the high level overview of the challenge. We got the specifics of your process. If it's possible for you to DM me and share kind of like the account for the Syrf, I promise I won't be spending my time labeling things, but just to see how it works.
The training project with everyone, because because the training project is open and it's a clone of the real project.
Oh, great. That would be amazing.
Trainees go through to before we let them loose. So that one I'm happy to.
Which makes, because training's perfectly for practicing on.
Yeah. So you can fill out what you want there.
Great. All right. So
you'll have to register and things first, but that's the project link.
Okay. And Matan is exploring the data set, I believe, and is asking which column has the annotation decision? Matan, do you have a microphone? Okay.
Hey, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm here. Actually, I just got the answer from Emma. Yeah, so I had it in my mind that it was going to be the primary or non-primary, but there are several targets in here. So objective method, detail method, so on and so forth. It's in the chat now. So yeah, we have it.
Got
Yeah,
it.
but there is another question. If all these decisions actually free string, so you can fill whatever you want, or you will just choose from some predefined options. So
I don't quite understand.
yeah, so for example, objective. So I see there are like values. Let me check. Well, like model tool development, which looks like free string. So
Like free form input, you mean?
yeah, free form input.
So there's drop for most of the options. They're drop down lists because obviously you want to minimize free text as much as possible.
Variability, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess it's when the option's not there, it's the other. When people select the other, that's when they then get the option to write
Okay.
text.
So
Although Jeanette was doing something else for this recently and found that people can't help but add little bits of information that we don't ask for.
When people are trying to be helpful, they want to be really helpful, and sometimes they're too helpful.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a fair description, Jeanette.
Yeah,
so
I think
basically you already have partly structured data because so some values coming from database.
So say that again.
So some of values in these decisions already they come from database.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have also data from database exported as data set. So it can be like first step to create control vocabulary.
Yeah, what he means is actually exporting a list of values that you present in selectors or whatever places, so we can kind of reconcile.
I see what you mean.
Documentation, yes.
I see what you mean now, yeah. So I guess, so that information is in the annotation guide, that all the options are there, but when Emma puts together this technical document, I guess that's one of the things we could put in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Quick question. So I'm looking into this latest document that Emma shared, and I see the objective method, detail method, subjects, peer-reviewed language, but that looks like the only annotator produced values. Everything on the right seems to be like the actual original data, right? I'm just going through the file to understand if there is another set of values or something that we're not going to see in this document. Because on the checklist, you've shown detailed kind of like a lot of questions. So I'm wondering where the outputs go from those.
Because we'd kind of, in that sense, we'd anticipate empty columns for lots of things, and occasionally there'd be one column with the concurrent answer. That's kind of, I think, what he's expecting to see. Is that right, Arta?
Yeah.
You'd expect to see a hell of a lot of empty columns for all the non-answers that doesn't exist for that particular one, and then basically lots of no's and one yes.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. No, I see exactly what you mean. I'm not
to say that this is all primary data, so that's why you're missing the questions for some of the beginning ones, because this is all primary data. So the non-primary is in a different data set. So you're actually only getting the question that is specific for the primary one.
Can you send the other one?
Yeah. I don't. Emma, are you able to do that, or do you want me to do it?
I'll probably have to talk to Caitlin about downloading it because I had trouble last time.
Yeah, 72,000 records. This thing starts to get upset.
Slava, do we have room for it in our dataverse? I mean, we've probably got a big chunk of it already, I'm assuming, because a lot of it is probably the same things that exists within the Cord19 data set. I'm just curious to which ones yours has compared to which ones we've got from the Cord19, plus all the extra data sets that Slava and the team have brought in from GitHub. So I'm not even sure what other products and I'm not even sure what else is in there because I don't go through it because it confuses me.
But I think you're right. I think that there are obviously other records, other fields that you're not seeing. Just in terms, I'm thinking, Emma, we don't have. Arthur, can you share your screen again?
Yes.
I'm just thinking around the interventions and trial registration and stuff. I just didn't see that stuff. So objective method, detail method, yep.
Yeah, it looks like 8 columns, and that's it.
Subject. Yeah, so it's the intervention information's missing and the trial registration information.
Yeah, if you guys can figure that out and send the updated sheet in Slack, that would be amazing.
Yeah, because I think, well, this is sort of cleaned. I think the easiest thing for me to send you would be just the raw data that we get from Syrf, which will be massive.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, it will be massive, but that's kind of where we start from anyway to understand the problem. That's why I asked if Slava's got room in the dataverse for just having it on there and we can start processing it from there.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good idea to put everything in dataverse.
Just put it in dataverse and then we can start treating it like basically anything else within our data set. And then we can start thinking of models that could improve it. And once we've come up with that, then we can sort of work out how to integrate it into your Syrf system. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, and to be honest, I already have, so I see potential to get all these data that you already produced integrated with our knowledge graph, because DOIs is the same. I think they're coming from Cord19. So we can get all these labels in our knowledge graph, and people can already find something using like Sparkle queries or filtering systems, so stuff like that. So it's already useful.
Lots of potential.
Yeah.
If we test it with the models that they've made from the current outputs from the reviews that have been done, and then we can hopefully learn some of the patterns and the markers, because then if we can understand the markers and the systems that what people have made the assumptions from, and then machine learning models can hopefully emulate that. And once we've got that tested, then we can start working out how to integrate our tested models versus the humans, and then work out how to improve both of them. That's kind of my thoughts right now.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. I think we're good to kind of start digesting the data and unbundling the workflow document of yours into very specific experiments. I think what we can try to do is, not sure if we had a chance to connect on the actual primary classifier. Do you have that shared anywhere on your GitHub or something?
Jim can answer that question.
We're working on that. Most of them are on the private repo right now. Some of the code are in public, and like the deduplication, and Caitlin has. So we're moving on that. So once we have moved most of the things on, I can publish it and send a notification to you.
Okay.
We have an organization account called CAMARADES UK, is that correct? I put it on later on. I cannot remember exactly at this moment.
Okay.
It's the advantage of the internet. We can just put it when we remember, because we don't have to store it all in his head anymore.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good. So let's take a couple of days and reconvene early next week on the couple of things that we would like to help automate from the standpoint of annotations. And we'll also play around with the demo or with the training platform and just ask you a bunch more questions in Slack channel.
That's probably what's going to happen. We're going to start with lots more questions. It always starts with more questions.
And I'll put a link to the Shiny app as well, so you can see how we are visualizing.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Thanks, everyone. Super helpful, super excited for this collaboration.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out more where this goes. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.